Hello, everybody. My name is Barry Johnson. Today, we're going to talk about the problems buying plugins. Let's get to it. All right. So, the problem with plugins is this. Here's the mistake that so many people make out there. They get into this whole digital audio recording thing. They get in their DAW. They figure out what DAW they're going to use, whether it's Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, Reaper, Studio One, Fruity Loops. It's not called Fruity Loops. FL Studio. It doesn't matter. Ableton. I could go on and on and on and on and on. Okay, that's not really what I'm here to talk about. Okay, so that's usually the first thing you got to work out. Then you got to get an interface. Then you got to get some monitors. Well, the first thing you probably should have started with, you should have started with, is your room treatment. But let's get off that subject for a second. Okay, so now we're going to get into plugins. And a lot of people will start with the stock plugins they have that comes with their DAW, which I think is perfectly fine. And quite frankly, is my advice. Always just start and work as long as you can with the stock plugins when you're getting started. But if you're like me and you've been doing this a while, you've navigated, you've moved on, you've graduated beyond stock plugins. Now, everything I'm going to tell you right now are mistakes that I have made in the past. They're definitely mistakes that I've made in the past, okay? And plugins have gotten relatively inexpensive these days. They used to be fairly expensive, and certain ones out there still are, but for the most part, most of the plugin manufacturers are coming out with sales, and pretty much the only ones that don't go on sale are the really, really most popular ones and the ones I know they don't need to put on sale. But the majority of them go on sale quite frequently. And so people seem to get this idea that if they buy a new plugin, that somehow that's going to do something magical to their mix. It's going to make it so much easier. I don't have to work or learn anything. I just can buy this new plugin that says it can do all these things for me. I just plug in a preset and go, okay? And then all of a sudden over time, now you've got that one, okay? Well, now there's a new one that does something even better than this one, so I'm going to go buy that one. And now there's another one. Oh, look, Waves just had another $29 sale. I'm going to buy a bunch of those. Oh, Plugin Alliance, I get emails from those guys all the time. I'm going to buy some of those plugins. And you just keep buying and buying and buying plugins. And you're only looking at it like, it's only 25, 30 bucks, 40 bucks. It's not that much money. Why do I care? I can afford that. I can afford that. Okay. Until all of a sudden you realize you've been doing this several years and you're looking at your iLok or whatever form of copyright protection that you have out there. Most of it's iLok. Okay. But anyway, when you look at it, you find out, man, how in the world did I end up with all these plugins? And the majority of them I never use. And so stop that nonsense. Just stop it, okay? I'm going to tell you, make some of your plugins work. Learn them. There is no magic pill out there for any of this. There's no magic pill, okay? And if it gets you an end result that you somehow think is somehow magical, it's not. You just need to learn how to do it with regular other plugins. Okay, some of these popular plugins are a combination of layers of plugins that they're doing all for you. But there's no cookie cutter approach. Not everything that you're going to put that plugin was recorded the same way. And not everything was recorded as well. So it doesn't mean you're going to get that same effect that they got because you didn't record it as well, or what somebody gave you is not recorded the same way. Okay, so plugins are a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous place, but they're also an amazing place. There's some really, really, really great plugins out there. I just think we've got to think about how many are we going to buy? How many do you need? Stop the plugin addiction. If you find yourself buying plugins on a regular basis, the way you're going about it needs to be reconsidered, in my opinion, okay? I think you really need to think about, what is that really gonna do for me? And what can it do for me that what can that tool, look at it like a tool, like you're going out to your garage, you're opening up your tool chest, you're pulling out a tool. What can that tool do for me? Okay, and do I have other tools that will get that job done? And do I really need to go back and forth? Because what happens is when you own so many plugins, it's almost guaranteed you're never really going to get good at any of those plugins because most people don't look at it as if it's a piece of hardware. I think you need to look at it as if it's a piece of hardware. If you got that hardware in, man, you'd be all over that thing all the time. You'd want to use it in every single mix. And that's something, that's a perfect example I just thought about. When most people make the transition, I'm not going to say most, when I made the transition, okay? Well, I've always been an analog, so that's not a good, anyway, I've witnessed this a lot. And that is when folks get to the stage and they want to start incorporating hardware, outboard hardware into their mix, that they're using as hardware inserts. And that's key to what I'm saying right now. Hardware inserts, okay, you're in effect using them as a plugin, right? In the same type of situation, you'd insert a plugin in your DAW. But instead of it being processed and manipulated via that plugin, you're sending out of your interface into the input of your hardware, out of the hardware back into your interface, coming back into your DAW. What most people do in that situation is they buy a new piece of hardware, they get so excited about it, they put it on every single track they can, every mix they can. Now, the difficulty with that is if you're trying to do it on every track in a post-recording perspective, then you're going to end up, you kind of almost have to do it in real time and process it one at a time, unless you happen to have multiple pieces of that hardware. But regardless, it's almost guaranteed that that hardware is probably going to be used somewhere in that mix because they want to use it, because they're excited about it and they like the idea of it and they're learning that unit. Why aren't people doing that with plugins? Why aren't people treating plugins just like they're a piece of hardware? I mean, why? Why aren't you? Okay. I know I didn't for a while. And then once I stopped and said, ho, 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 hold your horses here, Barry. Forget that thing is on your screen. Picture that thing is in your rack. I got racks all over the place here. but you know, picture it in there. And what if it had real knobs instead of a mouse? How would you treat that piece of gear? You know, or approach how you use that gear is the right way to say that. How would you approach how you use that piece of gear? Well, I would get in there and start turning dials. I would see how it works. I would see how this dial interacts with that one. I would go through all of this stuff. How many of you folks out there actually do that? You know, the only people who are going to comment and say that they do are the people who do. And everyone else that watches this video is going to think they do them and they don't. Okay? And so if you do, good job. Great job. If you don't, you should. You should. That's my recommendation. Just because you think something's working for you today, okay? Can you imagine how much better results you can get from it if you truly knew that plugin? So think twice before you get into all this plug-in buying simply because it's inexpensive. That's what happens with and it's funny, I'm gonna switch this because it's going to be the complete opposite about the video I'm going to record after this, and that's going to be about considering that people are so addicted to plugins. Do plugin subscriptions make sense for that type of project studio person? So we're going to talk about that. You have to come back to that video when it comes out to see what we're talking about. But I only mentioned subscription there, so the reason this is getting tied in. Think about all the subscriptions that a lot of us get sucked into, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, HBO, Showmax, Starz. I happen to do YouTube TV. There's so many. I mean, I've got to get so many different subscriptions that you look at. It's only $15 a month. It's only $8 a month. It's only $17 a month. And when you make that decision, you say, shoot, man, I can afford $17 a month. And then all of a sudden you look down and, man, I've got like 13 or 14 subscriptions, of which I only use 2 of them. I really only use 2 of them. Nobody else is using them, but I forgot that I do it. And that crap is adding up to several $100s a month. And so when you put it in that perspective, you think, whoa, slow your roll there, homie. Okay, so that's kind of where this stuff can get into, is you find that you buy it or you pay for it and you don't use it as much. So I strongly suggest that you really not control yourself from buying plugins, okay? And then get to the point where you learn the ones you've got, okay? And then ultimately, you're going to get better at it. You're going to get better at using those plugins. There's a lot of fantastic plugins out there. There is no miracle pill. There's no miracle pill. All right. So if you like the things I talk about on this channel, hit that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification bell. I don't know why I just did that, but I just felt like turning it in my chair so you get notified every time I've got a video. Got a bunch of other videos out there. Encourage you, ask you, go out there and check them out. See what you think. Put some comments down below. Tell me what you think about this. Until next time, I hope all of you have a great, great, great plug-in day. Peace, baby. See you later.